Hey, this is Jürgen Rasmussen. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a little contrastive analysis regarding Albert Ellis and rational emotive behavior therapy and the psychological illusion model that I teach. Some similarities and also some differences. If you're familiar with my work, you know that Albert Ellis' system has influenced the psychological illusion model. And I'm very happy that I, through my books and seminars, have been able to introduce the NLP and hypnosis world to Ellis philosophy. That's a bit too grandiose, by the way. Small pockets of the NLP and hypnosis world have been introduced to Ellis's ideas through my books and through my videos. So here are some key similarities and some key differences. So first of all, the big strength of Ellis's model is that it leads clients in the direction of discovering the power of thinking. It helps people to see that they're not primarily responding to events themselves, but more their interpretation and meaning making and thinking around those events. So what Ellis aims people to do is he aims people to kind of discover the role of thinking and to help people to question their thinking and to replace irrational beliefs with more rational ways of thinking. The psychological illusion model also points people in the direction of seeing the nature of thought in experience, but it's less about changing the content of thinking or how people think, and it's more about discovering that they are thinking to begin with. That what they experience is a thought-created psychological illusion of sorts. The psychological illusion model points people in discovering the illusory nature of thinking and the very fact that they are thinking. So very often people get lost because they're thinking without quite knowing that they're thinking. And that makes their thinking look like reality, and it makes thoughts and feelings look like a stable, permanent self. So the psychological illusion model is a framework where the aim is to help people to discover the illusory nature of that. So a little bit similar, but also a bit different. One of the main strengths in Ellis's work, I think, compared to cognitive therapy, for example, is his emphasis on the musts, needs, and the shoulds. Ellis did his best to help people to adopt a non-absolutist perspective on things. He did a great job in helping people to discover their musts, needs, and shoulds. Irrational beliefs such as I must perform, or I must be in control, or someone else has to respect me, or the world must be just and fair and not have too many hassles. So Ellis then would emphasize helping people to discover these masturbatory beliefs and to then dispute them, to question them, to challenge them, and then to replace them with more rational philosophies. In the psychological illusion model, I very often also help people to discover their musts, needs, and their shoulds, because it's a great way to help people to kind of discover that they are interpreting and thinking and making meaning. But instead of so much trying to work on these musts or to modify them or change them or replace them with different philosophies, it's more about discovering that the thoughts themselves are neutral, meaning that the thoughts themselves do not come with any inherent power, no special flavor, no special powder, that the thoughts, the musts, have no inherent power to make anyone do, feel, or think anything in particular. So it's about thought experiments to help people to discover that these thoughts are neutral, so that even if they show up, they can be seen as thoughts. So that's a slightly different orientation. Finally, another strong point of Ellis's philosophy was his emphasis on unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional other acceptance, and unconditional life acceptance. Now, if you push this to an extreme, you might run into trouble. But as a philosophy, mostly it's quite functional in that it helps people to see that they can criticize their behaviors and ways of thinking and decisions and still unconditionally accept themselves as people. It's a bit like this old accept the sinner but challenge the sin idea. So Ellis really emphasized this because his philosophy was that the main reason why we engage in these musts, needs, and shoulds is because we rate ourselves and other people as worthwhile or good or not based upon how well we live up to these musts and how well other people live up to these musts. So I think that's rather functional. In the psychological illusion model, the emphasis is slightly different. It's about helping people to discover, to have an insight in the direction that they're not their thoughts or their feelings, to help them to discover a distinction between the fact of being and thinking, and that the self that they tend to take themselves to be is a psychological illusion of sorts. And when people are able to make a distinction between being and thinking, then thoughts and feelings less look like a thing like self. It doesn't look as personal, and people tend to lose a lot of their fear regarding their own inner experience. So it accomplishes much of the same thing, but it's a different orientation of sorts. Now, I'll tell you this though, when people aren't quite receptive to working at this psychological illusion model level, one of the other frameworks that I then tend to go to is the rational emotive behavior therapy framework, as I mostly agree with it and think it's mostly functional. I have a different video on this channel, by the way, which is a critique video where I look at the strengths and the weaknesses of rational emotive behavior therapy. So anyways, I hope this was useful. I would love to hear your thoughts around this. If there's some change you'd like to make and you're wondering whether you and I could be a good fit, I invite you to send me an email at provocativehypnosis.com. We can set up a conversation and see if it makes sense to work together. Also, if you're watching this in 2025, in September, I have a 10-week long course coming up, which is how to see through the self-illusion masterclass. 2 hours every week online. Really looking forward to that. So if that's of interest, check out the seminar page at provocativehypnosis.com. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for listening.